Hello, dear educators. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Bala and Bala Perspectives on Education. This is the second season of the show, and we have a lot of interesting topics lined up for you. But before we get into the topic of the day, let me introduce both the Balas who are with me throughout all these shows. So, first up, we have Mr. G. Balasubramanian.
Hi.
He's the director, or rather former director academics of CBSE, well-known educator from our country. And many of you would definitely know him better as Bala G. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And to my left is Mr. Giri Balasubramaniam, better known as Big Brains. Many of you would have seen him with a bunch of questions and a mic on stage. He's a well-known quiz master from our country. Welcome to the show, Big Brain.
Thank you.
All right. Today's show, in today's show, we would be discussing a very highly debated topic for many years now, actually, happiness curriculum. Is it a myth or a reality? So let's see what the two well-known educators of our country have to say about happiness curriculum. Let me start by a very interesting quote by Buddha. There is no path to happiness. Happiness itself is a path. Do we really need a happiness curriculum? Sir.
Well, that's a very interesting question. Very often when this terminology was used for the last couple of years, I've been really wondering about the terminology itself, because the very objective of the curriculum is to provide happiness to the learner, right? If we are going to say happiness curriculum and put happiness as an adjective to the curriculum, that really means that we have not been looking at the objective of the curriculum as an instrument of happiness, okay? So that's a conflict in which we do. But nevertheless, the fact is that over the couple of years, we have become a highly consumerist society over there. Therefore, any amount of resources we gather, we access, we manage, and we celebrate is not adequate to the human beings. And they want more and more and more over that. That makes them absolutely dissatisfied with what they have. Therefore, the level of unhappiness in people is increasing day in and day out. And therefore, to train our children to be happy children, the happiness curriculum has been intended. At the global level also, even the United Nations has addressed to this area. But the question is, when do our children, when do our human beings become happy? In ancient days, when you're talking about Indian education, they said the objective of education was to produce a sthita prajna. What really means one who resides in his own consciousness. That if I am in my own consciousness, I know what are my needs. In other words, it's learning to be, not learning to become. Today we are in the royal conflict of learning to become, and therefore we are unhappy. Because all that what we become doesn't make us happy, because that is distancing the being from the becoming. And therefore, I think a need is need is there for happiness curriculum. Call it by any name, whether happiness curriculum or anything, but to make our people, sensitize our people that they need to be what they are, and nobody can give them happiness, as you rightly pointed out the Buddha's quote. Nobody can make them have to be happy unless they choose to be happy. And how they can choose to be happy, that's what education should provide for.
Your view, Big Brain?
Well, I've also had the similar view that happiness cannot be forced. It's an outcome. Happiness is an outcome. It's not an input. Otherwise, you would have tablets and pills today where, you can just distribute it and say, okay, feel happy. Even that in different forms is very temporary. So, it's not something that can be prescribed. My way of looking at what people are trying to achieve through happiness is actually trying to be mindful. You're trying to be mindful in different forms. You're calling it by certain loose adjectives or what you feel is an appropriate adjective, the direction of that and the intent of that is good. So I will not allow myself or the education system to get obsessed with the words, but look at the larger picture and say, what are we trying to achieve? What is most important, in my opinion, which schools would want to really take away with NEP giving them that opportunity, is to bring in positivity. That is the key element. What are you trying to produce for a future world? Positive-minded people. So whether you do that through happiness, whether you do that through anything else, it's perfectly fine. But create people who are positive-minded. That's my way of looking at it.
All right. So, what do you think constitutes a happiness curriculum?
Well, I don't think there is any element that really constitutes the happiness curriculum. There are a lot of attributes in curriculum that could lead to happiness, right? For example, the self-awareness of an individual, the awareness of the competencies of the individual, and the ability of the individual to be sensitive to the social needs, right? Because I believe happiness is both an individual as well as a social capital. That's the greatest capital that we can have. And no wonder Gandhiji said that happiness is when you have your thought, actions and words synergize. When there is synergy between all the three, you are happy. Right? You are not true unto yourself. You are not a divided personality. Therefore, we need a curriculum to provide the curriculum life skills, which would make the child to understand that how I negotiate, how I navigate, how I interpret the life, right? And finally, as he rightly pointed out, mindfulness when it comes to, that I am mindful of my needs, right? For example, to be healthy is the first need, right? So health is the first aspect of education, and health is the first aspect. Education about the ecology is the second aspect, because that's social health over there. Education of managing resources is very important in there. Education in being compassionate, facilitative, and helpful to people, so that we are a conscious society. So you can list out. As a matter of fact, the United Nations has already listed a number of factors, of which one is the financial, input resources that you get. But we need to understand that wealth is not an end product of happiness. Wealth is an instrument of happiness, right? Therefore, there are a lot of tributaries to the idea of happiness. And finally, we should educate the mind. So today we have got three things: education of mind, education of heart, and education of head. Unfortunately, today we focus largely on education of head rather than education of mind and the education of the heart, right? And rather, I will close with a remark from Milton, who said, mind is in its own place. You can make it a hell of heaven or a heaven of hell. So that's happiness, That's what the education should address to.
All right. Is happiness curriculum a capsule, a project, or a continuous learning experience? Your view.
I would like it to be a continuous learning experience. That should be the objective. But if schools look at it from a delivery and execution point of view as capsules or modules, that's perfectly fine. Because schools sometimes work best when they have goals to achieve. We are conditioned that way. The open playbook does not play well for us because we don't know where to go. It's sometimes, it's like in today's world, you are asked to go to a relative's house without a GPS. We are lost. In the olden days, we knew how to find our way, but today we don't. So sometimes I think milestones and goalposts are important. It also indicates that you are progressing from position A to position B. Also, it tells you that you are on the right road. You know, if you are trying to go from Bangalore to Mumbai and suddenly you find Madurai on the way, then you are going in the wrong route. So you got to figure out that, you know, you're going on the right track. From those perspectives, I think modular approaches work. Otherwise, I would genuinely like to see something like this as long term, because it's a requirement till you die. So that is not a choice. You've got to be happy. And to me, being happy is learning to be at terms with what you have. That can make you happy. So understanding that and not taking it like a curriculum or a syllabus. The worst of all, for God's sake, don't introduce a happiness examination. I mean, that will be disastrous. But we're capable. I'm not being cynical, I'm being honest.
Can be
We're more-
contradicting to a child, actually.
Yeah, but we're quite capable of doing something like that. You know, you might end up having an objective paper on which of the following to you indicate happiness. I mean, sad day if we do that. But what I'm saying is, let's look at the bigger picture.
So what do you think? Is it a capsule project or continuous learning?
Now, I would take a very philosophical view in the sense that there is a saying that every microcosm is a part of the macrocosm, and every macrocosm, the macrocosm is embedded in every microcosm. So the minuscule and the mini and the macro approaches are, you know, part and parcel of the same thing. Therefore, if you have what you call mini capsules which produce happiness, they are they establish patterns in human mind by which the mind trains and develops a trait to be eternally happy. Because mind has a unique capacity of pattern making. And what happens is, if it, that's why when you talk about the word negativity, you know, I was very, positivity, I said that's very important. In order to have a good happiness curriculum, a school should have an excellent positive environment in the school. I remember a very interesting episode about 30 years back when I went to one of the schools in South. It was a very small school, but at the gate of the school there was a small board put across, which really excited me, and it said, "This is a positive zone. Please do not bring negative vibrations inside."
Wow.
That's really nice.
I think that was a very good thing. So a school is a positive zone. Unfortunately, we bring too many conflicts inside the school, and therefore the most important, significant person who contributes to happiness curriculum is the parent, because you cannot think of a happiness curriculum without participation from the parents, because the children go back home and they may have a different situation. And therefore, I think the involvement of parents to design a beautiful happiness curriculum is, important. Mary Seligman, when he talked about authentic happiness, he said, a good life, a productive life, and a meaningful life, right? Which makes you happy? You need to have a good life, you need to have a productive life, and also you need to have a meaningful life. And therefore, happiness is the synthesis of all the three. That's authentic happiness. I think that's what we need to address.
All right. Big Brain, my next question is to you. Does happiness in the happiness curriculum depend on the school? Sir has already spoken about a parent's role, but...
No, it's not. In my opinion, it is not. We in fact should not put the onus of creating happy children or a happy environment on the teacher. The teacher plays one part in the entire ecosystem that the child gets exposed to. The bus driver who brings the child to the school in the school bus plays a role in the happiness of the child. The way the driver drives the bus in the morning can determine whether the child is nervous or the child is calm. Every small thing matters in a happy ecosystem. The way the child is welcomed into the school, the amount of greenery and flowers that are there in the school, the amount of sunlight that comes into the classroom.
Absolutely.
All of these things contribute to the happiness and well-being of a child. You may have the most happy teachers who crack fantastic jokes, make the teachers dark, put those children in a dingy, dark classroom, you are not going to have positivity. Everything matters. So you cannot put the onus on the school. It's a very good question because we make that mistake. We make that mistake. Sir rightly pointed out how the parents play a role in it. Everybody plays a role in it. So it's truly, truly important to have a system that revolves around consciously being happy and positive.
All right. So, is happiness curriculum dependent on socioeconomic factors or any other influences that it may have?
Really, it should not, but unfortunately, it is. Because, as you said, we started with what is called a consumerist life at this point of time. We have been comparing people in terms of their social strata, in terms of their achievement in life, in terms of their accomplishments, in terms of the support system, in terms of the power they exercise, right? All these things we have been defining as, indicators of happiness. So in that context, yes, but I have seen studies where children in government schools in very remote areas, they are happier than these children who are in well-paid schools which are high fee living schools over there. So as Mr. Giri pointed out, it is all that the nutrients that go into the happiness that matters. I may sit in an air-conditioned room, but still I may be suffering within, right? And probably I may sit under a tree. I may be enjoying the beauty of life. Therefore, I think this idea of equating happiness to achievements, happiness to the money and the reserves that you have in your bank, I think that is absolutely destructive. But unfortunately, in the consumerist world, it does matter. And I think this is where we have to educate children on life skills to say that there is something called standard of life and there is something called the beauty of life. What do you call the achievement in life? So standards of life, quality of life, I would put it across. Standard of life and quality of life. Many people have an excellent standard of life, they have a poor quality of life. There are people who don't have anything, they have an excellent quality of life, but they may not have a standard of life. That probably defines this. We should focus on quality of life rather than this mere standards of life, though they are necessary.
All right. So I think two key factors that would be a takeaway, at least for me, as far as this discussion is concerned, is understanding the role that every stakeholder plays in happiness curriculum for the child, and also ensuring that we make all our schools a positive zone. I think that was a huge takeaway, and that itself will certainly create happiness in the schools. So teachers, educators, thank you so much for joining us here today, and I really hope I see you again in the next episode of Bala and Bala, Perspectives on Education. You take care.